listening to Inside CDDFT, the podcast for the County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Inside CDDFT. My name is Rachael Stray, I'm from the communications team and I'm joined by one very special guest today.
Hi everyone, my name's Alex O'Brien, I'm part of the workforce experience team at CDDFT.
Fantastic, thank you so much for giving us your time today.
No problem.
So if that's all right with you, I thought we'd have a bit of a chat about coaching because this is something that obviously you're really passionate about.
I am, Rachael, yeah.
And obviously something that is now being offered more widely to colleagues within the trust. So for those who maybe don't know, let's start right at the beginning. What do we mean by coaching in the context of CDDFT?
Thanks, Rachael. So yeah, coaching within the context of CDDFT, what we're talking about is professional coaching. So coaching for all of our colleagues. It's that confidential and supportive one-to-one sort of safe space to talk about whatever colleagues want to talk about or whatever they want to be coached on. It's using a trained coach through our sort of trained coaching network, and it just sort of helps staff to go through and sort of think about maybe some challenges or if there's a particular goal or an opportunity that they have in mind. It's very much it's not about what coaching is about giving advice. So it's a process whereby we empower people to be supported to kind of make their own decisions and to kind of move in a particular direction, perhaps challenge their way of thinking so that they can see things from a different perspective.
Fantastic. Sounds amazing, to be honest.
Yep.
Sounds really
Yep.
good. So who is coaching for and what can coaching be used for?
It's a good question. So first and foremost, as I've said, coaching is available for all of our CDDFT staff. So regardless of level, it's not just for managers. It's not for anyone who's particularly looking for something from a career perspective or wanting to develop from that perspective. Coaching can be very, very broad because the principles of coaching that you can apply to anything. So we never say no from a coaching perspective in terms of what people bring to the table and what they'd like to work through. Some of the common things that we do see is, as I say, career coaching, development coaching. Sometimes there might be a conflict or a relationship they want to work on, they want to kind of approach from a different perspective. Maybe that's in the workplace. Challenges, workplace challenges, or perhaps something around a challenge of work-life balance or something like that. So it's very, very broad, and part of the coaching process as well is is for somebody to come to us and for us to look for that goal. So we don't necessarily ask for somebody to be very, very specific in terms of what they want to achieve. What we can do as coaches is we can take them through that and kind of work towards creating a goal for them, and then from that point onwards then support them as a coach to achieve that goal and kind of get there. So it's really very, very broad and it's very much open to anyone. As I say, the principles of coaching and the techniques that our internal coaches use can really be applied to any scenario. So if you wanted to be a millionaire, for example, Rachael,
Wouldn't we all?
I can coach you on that.
Wow.
So, there you go. So it's just as broad as that. We appreciate as well that obviously there's a lot of challenges in the trust and everyone's individual. They might be facing stuff at work, they might be facing stuff at home. There might be a bit of a bridge between the two things. So coaching might be used for, just to kind of define that goal and then kind of help to support with achieving it. We are not therapists, so unfortunately we can't provide therapy, but what a coach would do is if there is a set of circumstances where we thought some other resource was appropriate for you, such as the Trust Employee Assistance Programme, therapists or whatever it happens to be, support in that way, we would then say, I think this is more appropriate for you to work towards. But often if it is a goal that's something that's achievable and we can support you with that, that's what we would look to do.
Fantastic. So Alex, why is coaching something that we're offering here at the Trust?
Well, there's quite a wide range of benefits of coaching. We've offered coaching in the Trust for some years, but one of the things that we've done recently is our team have sort of supported with expanding the coaching network, so it's more available to staff. So we've got more capacity to coach within the trust.
Yeah.
We continue to do that as well. So we've got a long list of people that are interested in becoming coaches. So we're just kind of bringing them through the system to kind of hopefully become coaches and contribute as well. But
so keeping that expansion going.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's a huge amount of benefits as to why we coach at the trust. I mean, it helps to first and foremost helps to build confidence and resilience within individuals. It can be used to support with leadership skills and development that we've talked about as well. I've been really privileged to work with some coachees that have gone on to achieve either a promotion within the organisation or they've even gone in a different direction and really found like a purposeful role within the organisation that they might have always wanted to, but they've never felt confident enough to move in that direction.
Fantastic.
So there's stuff around that. Obviously, work-life balance is very important. So we can support colleagues with that health and well-being kind of aspect of it through coaching as well. So, again, I've worked with coaching clients that they've kind of wanted to achieve a better balance within their work life, and once we've kind of got to a point where they feel like they've started to achieve that, they've been able to perform better at work. So it's that kind of benefit of, yes, I'm supporting the individual, but that individual's then obviously being able to be more present and more focused and give more of themselves in terms of the role. So then that benefits us as an organisation as well.
Benefits the individual, benefits the organisation. Win-win, really, then.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's something that we can support all staff at all levels with. So it's not specifically for managers or people who are aspiring to be leaders or whatever it is. We do management coaching and we do aspirant leadership coaching, but it is something that everybody can access and kind of work at. So whatever challenges there are, it's something that somebody can get through. So because it's so accessible in that way, we can support anybody. And a lot of staff have kind of given us feedback. We usually ask for feedback and we continue to collect that as we go along so we can evolve the service and that we provide and kind of make it as effective as possible. But a lot of staff have said that it kind of gives them that power of being more reflective, which us who are reflective, we know that is really powerful to kind of take a step back, particularly when we're in a stressful situation or if we're doing something that's particularly challenging, we can kind of take a step back and give ourselves that little bit of perspective and kind of do a little bit around that. Time to sort of process decision making and things. Again, I've worked with clients that have been working very, very hard and very, very fast, which is in our very, very demanding services within the hospital. And sometimes it's about can we take the time out to have a safe space to really think through what we're doing, rather than kind of being caught in that cycle.
I was reading an article a couple of weeks ago where they were talking about high-powered CEOs. So if you think about like Jeffrey Bezos and people like that, and if you think about like Apple and things like that, how they streamline decisions. So things like having a uniform, so a black t-shirt with a pair of chinos. To remove that decision fatigue, because it's something like the average adult makes 185 decisions a day, which is a lot. What time do I get up? What am I going to wear today? What am I going to have for my tea? All those kind of things. But it does mount up, and that if you're making decisions at home, when am I going to feed the kids? When do I walk the dog? Do I need to make a dentist appointment? All those things. And we've talked about before about that squash, where the generation, you might be a caregiver, so you might be a parent, but then you might also be providing care for your parents and you're working. There's a lot of kind of pressure on people these days. It feels like more than ever before, really. And that decision fatigue is huge, and it becomes, too many options. Even, when you've had a busy day at work and you go home and you're going to turn on a streaming service and you think, I might watch something. What am I going to watch? There's thousands of possibilities. It might just be that one thing that just kind of tips you over the edge mentally of, one more thing that you have to decide. It's like when you're buying a house, and maybe you're buying, you're buying furniture and tiles, and you need to do this and you need to do that, and the contractor might ask you, what tile do you want in the bathroom? I don't know. I can't make any more decisions. So through coaching, is that something that you can help people kind of streamline that decision making process?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we talk about sort of the principles of coaching, Timothy Galway wrote lots of books, and it was initially around sports coaching, but the equation that Galway started was performance equals potential minus interference.
Okay.
And that's the principle of coaching. So often what we're looking for is that interference. So what's getting in the way of you performing your role? What's getting in the way of you achieving your work-life balance that you want to achieve? What are the barriers, and what are the ways that we can kind of support, or what are the ways that you can kind of effectively take down some of those barriers? And often, when we do coaching, we realise that those barriers have been placed there by ourselves, rather than them actually being something that's kind of in the way. So it's just one of those things that we've got the opportunity to work through with a coaching client, and kind of see what there is. There are some limitations to what we can achieve and what we can't achieve, but sometimes we can approach things from a different direction. And still achieve the same goal. And sometimes it's about us, looking at the perspective of, is this actually what I want? And questioning that. And if I do this, if I gain this, promotion or whatever it is at work, will I still achieve the work-life balance that I want, or will it actually enrich the role that I want within the organisation? Or do I need to look at something else? And for some people, for everybody, it's different. Sometimes those circumstances are right, and it's just a case of how do we get the confidence there to do that, and that's something we can coach as well. And sometimes it's a case of, let's look at other options for you. Let's talk through what you actually want, and we've got a lot of different tools that we can use, particularly around career stuff, where we can look at what makes people tick. Yeah. What motivates them? What do they get? That job satisfaction from, and then we can start to look at, because we know, the trust has quite a broad range of roles available. So
absolutely.
We work across different sites, and we have different support services. And
more than 350 different careers available. It's massive. It is huge.
But that's what it is. The coaching is really a good way of kind of corralling that, I suppose, and harnessing it and saying, is this what you want? And as I say, I've worked with people before that have moved in different directions, because they realise that, this isn't necessarily what they want to do long term, or it might be that, they've realised something about themselves through that self-reflection. So
ignited a passion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really proud of some of the coaches that I've worked with, and some of the feedback that I've got in terms of what they've gone on to achieve has been amazing.
Phenomenal.
So, it's a really rewarding thing to do as well.
I suppose it's that, you're providing, we've talked about this before, but that safe space. And sometimes it is just having that dedicated time when you're not on your emails, you haven't got somebody saying your name 1,000 times, and somebody who understands, because some people listen to this might say, well, I just talk to my wife, or I just talk to my husband about it. But if they don't work in the same, my husband doesn't work in the NHS. Yeah. He works similar, so he works in comms, so he's in communications the same as me, but our roles are not the same. Yeah,
I think that's a really good point actually that you've made, which I should have highlighted earlier. Really, is in terms of that perspective, because and a lot of coaches that I've worked with have said, the reason why it works really well is because I don't work with you, and you're not a clinical member of staff, and you're completely unbiased. You're coming into it, and all coaches will approach this in the same way. They will come into it with open eyes and just ask the question, from a completely unbiased perspective. So it really challenges people's way of thinking, because they're often surrounded by their peers. They're often surrounded by, and
that can be echo chambers, as we know, if we think about politics.
Absolutely, and even family members to a degree, because they'll be used to the context that you've painted for them. And
you're one side of that square, aren't you?
Absolutely. So it kind of provides that very sort of fresh space for somebody to, and obviously through coaching what we aim to do is to challenge thinking. So we'll do that through asking the right questions, of you, what about this, what's going on with this, that sort of thing. So it's, it is a, and coaches I work with, they do find it very challenging. Sometimes they're like, oh goodness me, I'm going to have to sit and think about that for a second. Yeah. But that's what we want. We want people to sit and think about it for a second, because that is the whole purpose of it. So it can be quite a challenging process for some people as well, because particularly if you've worked in one area or you've done one particular role or whatever it is. I mean, I'm talking about careers here, but it could be anything that you've done for a number of years. You may not have ever thought about doing something differently, or approaching it in a different way. So for some people, it can be a real light bulb moment.
Life-changing for some people.
Yeah, and I've had that before, Rachel, believe it or not. I've had a couple of people say, it's quite life-changing actually. And I was a bit like, wow, okay, yeah, that's where I know I've done a
bit of
job.
Perspective for you as well.
Absolutely. So I think, they've through the feedback we've received, though, I mean, it's been really good, and we know that coaching doesn't work for everybody, but what I would say to people listening to this is give it a go.
Yeah. Nothing to lose. Everything potentially to gain.
It's it is a free service available to staff. So go ahead, give it a go, see what happens, and if it doesn't work out, us as coaches, we're not offended. No, we will just say it's fine. This isn't the support you're looking for, but we can push you towards mentorship or whatever. So
many other avenues.
There's a lot of different avenues. Yeah, you can go down. This is just one of the branches, but we have found that there is a growing number of people that are requesting this service, and we just want to kind of spread the word to let people know that it's there and it's available if that's something that you want. Absolutely.
Alex, how does this coaching offer connect with our wider commitment to people here at CDDFT?
It's a good question, Rachel. It obviously links to, it links directly to our people matter strategy. So there's a lot of work that we do, our workforce experience team across the trust. We do a lot of organisational development work, or OD work as we like to call it, and coaching, the principles of coaching really feed right through a lot of that work, but one-to-one coaching is part of that kind of organisational development work. And as I've sort of hinted at already, it feeds into a lot of different sort of directions that we want to travel in terms of that health and well-being for staff, that leadership development side of things, even just kind of maintaining staff within keeping staff at work and keeping them happy and healthy and that kind of thing. So it feeds into quite a few different areas from our people strategy perspective. And it's kind of about creating that culture as well. Coaching is something that a lot of our some of our managers have started to use as well, coaching skills, and I will touch on that a bit later on. But that's something we can do as well as an organisation, is to start to use kind of coaching and then coaching skills and things like that. To kind of support our staff in that way that we want to, and kind of build that kind of supportive culture as well. So there's quite a few different connections. Also it kind of reinforces a lot of our trust values in terms of that inclusivity and that respect and that empowerment to staff as well.
Fantastic. Now, Alex, you did coaching yourself. You were coached. What was your experience like?
I was, and I have been. So interestingly, actually, as a coach, I do continue to be coached as well. So that's kind of part of my sort of continuing development. But I can't, if I'm being honest, like there are no other spaces like a coaching space. I have a really supportive line manager, and I have a fantastic relationship with my line manager and all of my peers as well. I'm really lucky to work in the team that I do. But even that doesn't provide me with the same space that I have when I'm being coached. So it's very much because you have that impartiality that I've talked about already, and that kind of unbiased and that kind of challenge, somebody looking at your situation with a completely fresh set of eyes, who doesn't work with you, they don't have any sort of hidden agenda around anything, it really opens up that opportunity for you to have a really good thinking space and to kind of ground yourself a little bit. You know, you might be questioning, you know, how do I move forward with something, or how do I kind of, you know, am I you know, really fulfilling the purpose in this role that I have, and that kind of stuff. And I've asked myself these kind of questions before, but being in a coaching space just gives you that really sort of you know, blue sky thinking, I suppose, you know, to coin that term. But you know, that it's really that space that you can start to explore. And coaches are, you know, very perceptive. As coaches, we have to be very perceptive and very kind of we have to be very kind of focusing on the individual in terms of how they're reacting to the questions, all that kind of stuff. So to have that kind of focus as well, it's not something people often get. So it's really very much about you and how you're kind of working through things. So I would say, you know, from my personal experience, there's no other space like it. You know, it doesn't matter how good your line manager is, and they might even be a supportive coach, you know, with a coaching style as well. But it's not the same as having that completely kind of clean sheet, if you want to call it, thinking space with a trained coach.
And, you know, I work really closely with Alex. I'm in a really privileged position. I see you a lot. I talk to you a lot. We see each other face to face quite a bit, which is quite rare these days with the technology that we have and the fact that we work across lots of different bases, lots of different hospital sites. We also do some home working as well. So it's very varied. But I've been there when you've had coaching. So not in the session, but I mean, I've seen you before a coaching session on a day, and I've seen you afterwards, and I can see that difference in you. And from when you started your coaching to where you are now, I can see a total change in you, like for the better, the positive aspect of it. But I think in terms of your confidence, your direction, your goal setting, I think you're a lot more strategic in your thinking now. You've got it more focused, you've got more energy, bringing more ideas to the table. So for me, no, that's brilliant. You know, I feel like I'm gaining from you being able to do your coaching. So, and I'm sure that your team would be able to reflect on that more because they work with you on a more, you know, personal basis, and they see you more often. But I definitely think that you're a really good walking, talking advert for coaching. You know, being coached yourself, but also being a coach and coaching other people. And you know, some of the success stories that you've been able to share with us, some of those highlights, I think just really show the power of coaching. You know, that it's not something to just be underestimated, to be honest, which I think a lot of people have done maybe in the past.
Thank you for that, Rachel. I appreciate it. But I mean, as you said at the start, I'm very passionate about it. I just, you know, I think it's something that is being talked about more and more, you know, in business in general.
Absolutely. You hear it on other podcasts.
Absolutely. And I think it's, you know, it is something that we're obviously, like I say, we're starting to build a bit of momentum, and we're starting to get a bit more coming through in terms of requests for that. But I think it's a lot of that is coming through word of mouth. So we are seeing people that are saying, you know, have you tried coaching? I did it, you know, 6 months ago, and it's fantastic, and you know, that sort of thing, because you know, it's very much about those experiences that people are having that kind of sells it, I suppose, really. Yeah,
absolutely. That word of mouth,
because it is a time commitment. You know, and we'll come on to how we access it in a minute, but you know, there is the time commitment involved, and we know people's time is very, very precious.
Absolutely.
But, for me, you know, what you can achieve in an hour of coaching is probably something that you might try and achieve over 6 months with your line manager. So, you know, it can be quite effective if it is what you're looking for, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So you might be putting in a dedicated hour with a coach, but actually you could have saved months worth of work where you've just been chipping away at it because you haven't had, like you say, that dedicated space for that blue sky thinking, that challenge, that opening up your mind. Maybe it's just even just one question that kind of makes you stop and think, oh, wait a minute, I've not thought about it in that way before. Because again, you know, you are impartial, you're not biased, you might not even know the person personally who you are coaching, so you haven't got any of those kind of preconceptions or any of that kind of clouding maybe your judgment that you might have with somebody who you've got more of a personal relationship with. That could be a line manager, it could be a colleague, it could be you know, your partner or
whatever.
Absolutely.
Work with. Absolutely.
And I think, you know, we've talked before on this podcast about our fantastic health and wellbeing offer, about our training and development offer. You know, having coaching as part of that, repertoire of offers that are available for the workforce. I think it's fantastic that we are an NHS trust that is offering this to people. And like you say, it doesn't matter what level you're at, how old you are, where you are in your career. I think that's absolutely phenomenal that we are opening this up to staff and like you say, growing the network of coaches as well to make it even more accessible and available for people.
I think there's a couple of things in that. I mean, coaching's obviously available in the private market. It is quite expensive. If anyone's listening to this and you want to have a look in to see how much coaching costs, it is quite expensive. But also, one of the benefits of coaching through our network is that we kind of manage that network as an organisation. If you go to a private individual and coach with them, yes, they might be part of an organisation of coaches, but we have that kind of oversight as an organisation on what our coaches. So we just launched quite a lot of continuous professional development sessions for our coaches. So what we've got is we've got them accessing different sessions that our team helps to facilitate on a regular basis, so that they can basically keep us keep as effective as possible as coaches. So we're kind of trying to give our staff the best coaches that we can, so we're going to constantly develop the network and kind of make sure that our coaches are happy and supported. So it's kind of passing on that best possible coaching experience to people, which yes, you could look to get that somewhere else, but I think it's a massive benefit to have it not only for free, but also to have those trained professional coaches in within the organisation.
Fantastic. So then, Alex, if someone's listening to this podcast and they're thinking, oh, actually, coaching sounds a bit of me, that does. I'm interested. How does it work?
Well, first of all, if you are thinking of having some coaching or trying some coaching, please do. Please give it a go, because it does. It's very effective, and it's something that's we've seen a lot of great support and great feedback. In terms of how it works, very, very simple. Any CDDFT or SCL member of staff can just contact our workforce experience team. We just need an email from yourself to say, I'm interested in coaching, and we'll get back in touch with you and do the rest. Basically what happens from that point onwards is we'll send you a little bit of information, and we may ask a little bit more about why you want to do coaching. We don't need a lot of detail around this. All we want is just a bit of a general overview, or just a general goal, something like that. We might ask you for that. That's just so that we can pair you up with a coach within the internal coaching network. What we always do, and you mentioned about relationships, what we'll always do when we do that pairing is make sure there's no conflicts of interest. So if it does happen to be somebody that you're working with or somebody you're familiar with, you can say, I've already got a relationship with this person, I don't necessarily want them as a coach. If you do, that's fine, but we try and avoid that because we want to provide that completely clear space. So we'll do that, and once we've set you up with your coach and we've got a good pairing, then from that point onwards they will just get in touch with you directly, and they'll start the contracting process, which is where you go through with your coach and agree in terms of what you're doing, and the whens and the wheres and all of that kind of stuff. Some people like to be coached face to face because they like that interaction. A lot of the time now we're being asked to coach via Microsoft Teams, which is absolutely fine for us.
Gives people a lot of flexibility as well.
It does, because it's very difficult to find
a room.
Space. I was going to say it's very difficult to find a space now. So I've coached people who might be working from home, or they might be on a shift
busy
pattern,
board,
and they're trying to find some space or something. So as coaches we can be flexible to that,
because you want that safe, confidential space, but you also don't want somebody just walking in. Sorry, I thought I was just going to take my lunch.
You don't want any of that stuff.
No,
so
distraction free, confidential, safe.
Absolutely, and we go through all of that in the contracting side of the process as well. So for me as a coach, I always add a bit of time on to the first session so that we can
Yeah.
go through the contracting. The other thing we'll do as well is we encourage our coaches to do what we call a chemistry call, which is a call just before we start that first session.
Okay.
So basically what it means is it's just an informal introduction, 10 minutes or so, just so that you know who your coach is, who you're expecting. Particularly if you're doing it online, you might be wanting to, just have that brief introduction beforehand. Because coaches often we do ask for a lot of information, and we do ask for that sort of safety and trust. So the more we can do to kind of support that from to try and get there is kind of quite important for us. So chemistry call, then we'll do your first session, which will be organised with your coach, and like I say, that'll either be online or face to face. And then from that point onwards, we generally say 3 coaching sessions, but we do take that further if we need to. So we see where we're at 3 coaching sessions.
So it's more tailored to the individual than
very
your
much
needs
so,
are.
Rachel. It's entirely really tailored to the individual and the support that we need to give. Like I say, sometimes I've had clients that have only needed 1 session. Sometimes they need 12. So we kind of offer the support there, and you just continue that relationship with your coach, and then once it's concluded. We send the evaluation form out, and that's it. But
fantastic.
One of the things we also say to our coaching clients is doors always open if you want to if you want to go back and do some more. So very much accessible for anybody who's interested. If there's something in particular that you want to work on with an internal coach, then you can do that. Obviously the process is completely confidential. You don't have to be referred by your line manager or anything like that. If it's suggested to you and you want to do it, then that's fine. You can just approach us, and we'll approach the team, and we'll pair you up with a coach. As I say, it's all completely confidential process.
And anyone can apply?
Anyone who works for the trust or our colleagues at SEL as well, that includes them as part of Team CDDFT. So any level, any job role, and I'll say tentatively any problem.
Within reason.
Within reason. But as I say, if it's something that you think will benefit, we do have some information about coaching as well, which we've got on the intranet. We will send that to you if you contact us as well, so that you can see so you can kind of get a feel for coaching, and then at that point, if you think, this actually isn't what I want, then then that's fine. So we've got plenty of flexibility around it.
Fantastic. And we talked a little bit about kind of that wider training offer. There might be some managers who are maybe interested in particular coaching skills for managers courses. Is that something that we offer? Absolutely.
Yes, it is. Thanks for the mention of that. We have recently developed, one of our colleagues within the workforce experience team, Lona Atkinson, who recently developed a coaching skills for managers course. So that's something that we've started to deliver as a team. Had some really good feedback from that already, actually.
Fantastic.
So that's something that you can book on to if you are a manager and you're thinking, I don't want coaching myself, but I am interested in the skills that are involved in coaching.
So that you can then do that with your team.
You can then apply that to your team, basically. So
brilliant.
We'll cover some of the basic stuff within that course. All accessible through ESR, so you can book onto the course. I believe we're trying to do alternative sites at the moment.
So across Durham and Darlington.
Yeah, but whatever's available, it's that'll be on the depending on when you're listening to this, of course.
Yeah.
That'll be available on ESR, but that is some additional support we can give to our managers from this point onwards. So I'm really excited about that as well.
If you've done coaching yourself and you're a manager, could you still book onto the coaching skills for managers course? Would you get something out of it, or?
Yeah, absolutely, because some of the things that we do in some of our courses are about that peer support and kind of some continuous professional development. We are developing some other leadership courses as well that managers might want to go on to.
Brilliant.
So there's quite a lot available. I would just say to any managers that are looking for stuff like that, keep an eye on the weekly bulletin that we have out, because we've got quite a few things that are in the pipeline at the moment, and there might be something that's suitable. But absolutely welcome managers that might have some coaching skills and might just want a bit of a refresh on some of that stuff, so they're welcome as well.
Fantastic. And I've done a couple of the kind of management courses, like the engaging managers and a couple of the other sessions, and I have to say I got a lot out of it, so I can highly recommend the internal courses that we offer and that your team offer, and obviously the wider training and development team. They are fantastic, so please, keep an eye out on the Team CDDFT bulletin. We've got that landing page at the bottom there. When you scroll down, you click through, and you've got your Wellbeing for Life courses. I've done a couple of them; they're really good. And then all of you kind of preceptorship and all of the other kind of the wider offer that we have is, we've said it before, but it is fantastic what we offer as a trust.
Absolutely.
Whether you're a manager or not, not just the management courses, but there's so many things on there, and even a member of my team has done some of the leadership courses, is now on to a higher level and has got loads out of it, and personally and professionally has come on leaps and bounds since doing that. And that was just something that we discussed regularly as part of a one-to-one. I'd suggested these are coming up, is there anything that you'd like? It'd be really supportive of you to do them, and he would say himself he's got loads out of it, so it doesn't matter if you're a manager or not. There is something for everyone, I would say. And
that's I think that from the leadership perspective, that package continues to kind of expand and grow. One of the things we are hoping to do in the future, and we do align with some of the leadership courses, but we'd like to offer coaching alongside leadership courses.
Oh, wow.
We appreciate that there is that reflective space when you're doing any leadership training or anything that kind of looks at development of leadership. So we'd like to kind of hope to get to a position in the future where all of our leadership courses we can offer coaching alongside.
Wow.
We do it for our aspirant leaders at the moment. They've got a huge amount out of it.
And I've spoken to a few people who've done the aspirant leaders course, and they cannot speak highly enough of it. We've had some really fantastic feedback from that, and obviously the coaching element has just helped to really enhance it further, because they've been able to do a little bit of self-reflection, identify that maybe this is something that I want to work on, then get a coach, a dedicated internal coach to then support with that. So it's really about that. So and that again, going back to how that links in with our people strategy, that is what we want to see. We want people to thrive in the organisation. Absolutely.
And coaching just provides that extra kind of tool in the toolkit, or whatever you want to call it, to support with that. Fantastic.
We've covered a lot there, Alex, but is there anything that you'd like to add in before we close?
No, just to reaffirm that that's an offer that we've got within the trust, and like, as I said before, if there's anyone from Team CDDFT listening to this and thinking, actually I could do with some professional coaching, please get in touch. We continue to grow our coaching network. We're always looking for coaching clients as well. Give it a go if you'd like to. Thanks very much for listening.
Thank you so much for your time, Alex, and for opening up about your own coaching experience as a coach and as a coachee. Thank you very much for listening. I'm sure we'll be back soon on another Inside CDDFT episode. Thank you and take care.
This is Inside CDDFT, the podcast for the County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust.